putting the lifters in, they have a port on one side and nothing on the other side, so the oil can come into it. There are different ways to prime these. You want to prime these. The motor's going to prime them, but you want to prime them before you put them in, especially if you're doing adjustable push rods. That way there's oil in them. So right now there's just a little bit of oil, assembly oil in them. This passage right here is your oil feed passage, and you can pump oil directly into that and it'll feed them. And it'll prime the lifters for you. I like to make sure everything has a nice little coating of oil on it, just to make sure nothing's dry when you go to put it in. O-ring, so those are your oil passages you pick up in your returns. So your oil pump will go into that when your cam plate was still up against that one. That's the biggest part of the job. Getting to it's the hardest part. Well, with twin cams, you had two cams. You had a chain that connected them on the back, but you had to time those accordingly and then put tensioner on the back and everything else. The 5-speed Camshaft, you had bearings that you had to press in and out of the cam plate. These, they don't run a bearing in them anymore. Interference, oil passage fit, and everything else. Interference oil takes up all the space. You go hand tight on everything, and then you torque 1 and 2 to 60 inch-pounds, and then you follow the torque where you rotate the motor 100 or 1 full revolution, then you torque the cam plate down the rest of the way to 120 inch-pounds. Aligning this sprocket and aligning this chain allow for a better ride, more performance, less drag, and everything else. Some people don't do this. Harley say it's a bolt-on kit. Sometimes you don't need to do it. Most times you need to do it. Again, it helps performance, helps keep that oil pump and cam plate and everything else alive. Yeah, they want you to make it yours, just like anything else. They give you a good starting point. Most people don't do anything to the motor. They're happy with the way they are. The way these new M8s are, they come out with pretty decent performance right out of the box. Especially some of the new 121s and stuff like that. They have really good performance. But there are people that want that extra, want a little bit more. And that's where all the aftermarket fun stuff starts to come into play. That's where a lot of the performance and everything come into play. It's how big the lobe is versus how wide it is for the duration, to how much it picks up, how much it lifts, and everything else. That's where you start seeing the difference externally. You know, what you can pick up and visually see. That's where you'll see it at. You'll see some of these cams, they'll have a massive lobe on it where it's just wide. It's really, really wide.
Good.
Like how this is real narrow, it has a real small duration. The bigger it is, it'd be a longer duration. The lift is how high it comes up. That's lifting your valve off your seat, so how far it opens. How much you're opening up here to allow fuel and air to get into the motor. What I'm measuring here is the cam drive gear to sprocket alignment. So I'm measuring the sprocket face, and making sure with a straight edge that we're close to 10 thousandths or tighter to keep that cam and chain straight in the line. We have timing dots. Those timing dots line up with the flat on the crank, and there's a notch. When I take the sprocket back off, you'll be able to see it, that keys it to the sprocket so it times everything together. You want to line up the dots. So you can see there's a bigger tooth up here for the sprocket to line up on. That's your alignment mark for those, or your alignment key nut for the sprockets. So you're at the same spot every time. And then there's a flat here. So typically those should be up.
So with these, we're gonna do a kind of a snug torque, which is 15 foot-pounds. And then we'll back them off one rotation to get a seat torque on them. This is just seating the sprockets and the cam and everything into place. And then, like I said, we'll back it off and then we'll get a full torque on it. And it's a hydraulic chain tensioner, so it will adjust automatically. Should that become hydro-locked or wear out, then you'll have chain slap, you'll hear the noise in there. No, I mean, that's kind of what I've always been around. You know, like I said, my dad had a Ninja when I was a kid, but he's always had, you know, Harleys and stuff after that. And then that's the Americana. You know, that's what we wanted to do. That's what I wanted to work on.
So, that's fair.
I didn't ever want to work on Ninjas or Suzukis. It's a lot more moving parts. Not that these are simple by any means, but syncing 5 carbs together never sounded that appealing to me. I think back to like something that I seen a while back that kind of summed it up. This is an iron horse, right? That's what people call them. They call them iron horses. Takes you back to where you were free, you were riding a horse down a trail. Like what they said in the video that I was watching. Somebody in a car is not going to know that the air changes every 20 feet. The temperature when you go over a bridge, you know, the change in pressure as you're going up and down the hill. You're not going to feel that in the car. You feel that when you're out on a bike. Going over a stream, how much fluid. You hit that open road. You hit blacktop in a city, downtown Dallas, how much hotter it is. In your car, you're not going to feel that. It's nice 70 degrees. Outside, it's 130 degrees. You know? Next, we're doing push rods. Push rods back in, just came out. And we'll go through that whole procedure. Get all that done, and then put the exhaust on. We have O-rings in the middle, O-rings at the top, O-rings at the bottom, and still up. If there's an issue, a lot of times we'll see on this surface here, O-ring takes it out, they'll be able to fix it. If you have it in there, most likely it won't seal up and you'll have full leak out push rod tubes. It's always a good rule to make sure that these turn, make sure everything's threaded, and make sure there's no debris inside of them. Like this one has debris on the inside of it. So we need to go blow that one out. Because these are hollow tubes with a threaded insert in them. So what happens is when they thread one side or the other, the shavings get inside of it. That was in the push rod tube. And it's just from when they cut the threads into it. But if you look, they are longer and shorter, so you have less adjustment to do for the intake and exhaust. Intake's going to be shorter than the exhaust, so it should always go long, short, short, long. The procedure is turn these out to where there's zero lash meaning no up and down movement. So right now we have a lot of up and down movement on the push rod. So we're trying to bottom that out in the lifter and the rocker arm at the top of the head. So then once we get there, then we'll actually adjust it out. So now I'm at 0 lash where there's no up and down on the push rod. And with that, we're gonna let these set till we can spin them freely. Like right now, we can't turn them without forcing them. So we let them set and bleed down to where they'll spin freely. That's how you know that there's no pressure. You're not opening something that's not supposed to be opened. We joke a lot in the field about a bike being built on Friday versus being built on Monday. You got a bike that's built on Friday, guys are trying to get out of there. You got a bike that's built on a Monday, guys are not wanting to work. You know, you got to look for that middle of the week bike where everything's working like it's supposed to. It's the same with anything else. You know, you might have a motor where somebody who cut that ring on a Friday cut it a little bit loose. You know, it's still within spec, but maybe it's looser than the guy that built the bike on Monday. That keeps tension down on the spring and that O-ring to keep everything nice and filled up tight. Keep it from leaking out any oil, hopefully. As long as those O-rings are good. D&D. I've always liked D&D. They sound good, they perform good, they hold up good as far as life of the pipe and wear and tear and break. The heat shields hold up good, the clamps hold up good, the pipes hold up really good. If you're doing cams or any kind of motor work, most of the time we're doing exhaust. So that kind of holds the pipe in line, spaced off of the cam cover so where we're not hitting on anything. And like I said, we'll start with the rear, tightening everything down.